For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
The violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings.
They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber, and today I'm joined by relentless Bill Robinson from Newsmax. How are you doing this morning, Bill?
Great, Michael. I hope you're well. And we're here to discuss the various atrocities and various examples of our winning today.
Exactly. The apocalypse is upon us. The government shutdown has begun. I like these rumors I'm hearing that Trump is going to fire another 750,000 government employees. Well, apparently 100,000 are going to resign somewhere between today and Tuesday. So I say that's a good start, but I like the 750,000 number. You know, the Democrats really walked themselves right into this trap because President Trump, the executive, has sole responsibility in determining what functions of government are essential and what are not. And by the way, the other thing they're crying about this morning is the big, beautiful bill explicitly funded ICE to continue deportations, even if there was a government shutdown. So there's no stopping that.
President Trump just doesn't stop. He's the world's biggest badass. I love it. Doesn't mean he's perfect, of course. I always have to add that disclaimer. But man, is he, for the way he's fighting back with the memes and the sombrero and the big black curly mustache on Hakeem Jeffries, it's so perfect. And pretty much everybody's buying it and loving it. Even the Democrats, I think they're silently laughing inside at their silly Islamo-fascist leader of the House, Hakeem Jeffries. And, I think Trump's just totally taking it to them on using AI, using social media. It's just wonderful. And, who isn't sick, including the Democrats, by the way, silent though they may be, who isn't sick of this nonsense where the Democrats try to shut down the government, get as much negative publicity about the Republicans and blame it on us. And then, and then at the last minute, the Republicans cave. That's not happening this time. And I want to make sure it doesn't happen. So if we start seeing it happening, we'll have to jump on it and have to start primarying these people, these Republicans who might be caving in. But Trump's not caving in. What's more, he's amping it up and doubling down. He's saying, okay, since you shut down the government, we're going to start firing thousands of government employees. And really, we need millions fired because although we all run into the occasional gem, the sweet angel at DMV or the nice man at the permitting office, most of the government employees are just dreadful, blood-sucking parasites and pilot fish, just living off the American taxpayer dime. And that's got to stop. That's something Obama really just amped up by 1 million or more. So it's just I'm just praying for this. And Trump's I think he'll deliver on this. So it's going to be very good.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is what makes this one so bad for the Democrats is, their demands are spelled out on paper. They are now trying to go with the narrative that, it wasn't that we wanted health care for illegal aliens. It's we wanted health care for everyone. But again, nobody's buying that. because it's just devoid of reality. And then the other things they were demanding, millions of dollars for their cronies and the mainstream dinosaur media. It's just not sticking. It doesn't add up. We'll get into this later, but yeah, even a large number of Democrats don't support what they're doing right now. It's 45%, and that's coming from the New York Times, liberal polling. Even they can't hide it. That nearly half of Democrats and then 75% of independents and 90-something% of Republicans blame the Democrats solely for this. So, and again, don't approve. So, I mean, when you're that detached from reality, I mean, that's the end result. And again, this lines up with what we've been saying for a long time, is everybody's leaving the left. They've completely gone off the rails, and people just aren't buying their BS anymore. The fact that they would shut down the government to protect illegal aliens is insane, instead of doing something for the American citizen. But we have this video I want to play here in a second. But watch, Mike Johnson blasts Democrats with government shutdown hypocrisy with their own words. And I think this is a good illustration of it. So let's roll this, and I'll get your take on this, Bill.
It is not normal to shut down the government when we don't get what we want.
If the government shuts down, it will be average Americans who suffer most. A government shutdown means seniors who rely on Social Security could be thrown into chaos.
Families will be hurt. Farmers will be hurt.
It's the service members who will work without a paycheck. It's the firefighters who will be furloughed.
This shutdown, you know who's going to feel the pain? You know who it hurts? You. Everyday people. And the most vulnerable. Seniors, veterans, working families, hungry kids, y'all.
Democrats are signaling they're ready for a fight. This time, Schumer tells the Associated Press, quote, "Things have changed."
It is not normal to shut down the government when we don't get what we want.
Well, they seem to know why they did it. So yeah, again, what changed?
It's not normal to shut down the government when we don't get what we want. There it is. Just a stunning assessment of self-awareness and analysis on their own position, which is none. Basically, on all the issues, the Democrats are morally bankrupt or completely absent with any kind of serious, rational position on any of the important issues affecting America. This is just another one. If you noticed on the first photo that you used to introduce this, the Breitbart one, right to Hakeem Jeffries' right is that purple-haired lowlife Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut, who has no business in there. She's an insult. There she is. I mean, what a psychotic witch-looking person she is, and she votes that way too. So if you're a decent person living in Connecticut, that's who you have representing you. I mean, it's insane. So all these people, they go with the prevailing winds. It's the lick the finger, put it up in the air, and see which way they think is going to best suit their political agenda. And it's just, let's shut down the government. And then they start saying, oh, it's going to hurt the seniors. Corrupt, idiotic senators have been putting IOUs in Social Security for decades. They've been robbing and stealing money from Social Security and Medicare for a long time now. And so the first thing they do is they're concerned about seniors. The other thing that's laughable is when they start talking about, our military men, they won't get their pay. Oh, all of a sudden they care about our military? Are you freaking kidding me? I mean, this is nuts. These people are, they should be deported. And I'm sick of Baldy up there talking, Ayanna Pressley. She needs to be removed from this country on a hand truck with a face mask with a mouth cover like Hannibal Lecter. We need to remove her from this country. And just like we do, there's a whole long list I'm building of people who need to be removed from the country, like, Hannibal Lecter style.
Yeah, well, I'm still not convinced that Rosa DeLauro isn't our original transgender elected official, but what would I know? But yeah, I think the Democrats are used to being able to have the mainstream dinosaur media carry their water, pretend whatever they're saying is true, immediately reverse position, never apply any context or anything else. And they just can't do it anymore. That they don't have enough bite, they don't have enough pull anymore, and people are not watching them. So it doesn't matter what they run with, what lie, that there's enough alternatives alternative media out there, people are going to look on X and Facebook and everywhere else where, our social media networks, and they're going to see the truth, and their narrative just falls apart. I think they thought they could get away with this again, and that time has clearly passed. And this is another great moment yesterday, and I meant to grab this video and totally forgot. I just realized right now. Crying Chuck Schumer is laughed out of the Senate after alleging the New York Times poll blaming Democrats for shutdown is biased. And again, this is what I was talking about earlier. Like, even the left can't cover for them on this. I think that, again, this was handled very well by President Trump and Speaker Johnson. They went out and they released what the Democrats were demanding immediately for people to review. And again, the fact that the things that they were fighting for are not good for Americans. They want to prop up the dying media there, so they still have their propaganda arm. And they made a demand of $350 billion over the next 3 years for health care for illegal aliens. And like I said earlier, now they're trying to spin it as, well, what we really want is health care for all Americans, regardless of status. But that's not what they're asking for. That's not what they're doing. And all of us know it. And we're just not putting up with it anymore.
Well, laughed out of the Senate because he's alleging the New York Times is biased. This is the absolute bottom of the barrel, right? Like, once they start claiming the New York Times is biased, well, they're actually saying the truth out loud there. But the fact of the matter is he's claiming they're biased against Democrats, which is provably and certifiably untrue. It's shifting it's like the Bizarro cartoon, right? It's a Bizarro world where they flip everything upside down. And, it's all of a sudden the New York Times is not their friend anymore. It's like they're our frenemy. And pretty soon they'll be our enemy. They're in transition, the New York Times, supposedly, according to Schumer. But Schumer's a classic example of I'm starting to rank him up with George Soros, right? Because we're talking about Jewish people who, for some completely inexplicable reason, are supporting the Palestinians, are supporting killing babies in the womb, who are supporting endless wars. All of these things are antithetical to real Jewish doctrine, and so they're like a man without a country. They're Jewish, but they never go to synagogue. They're Jewish, and they want to fly that flag whenever they want to get the Jewish vote for Schumer on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, for instance. But when it comes to anything else, they're so secular, it's absurd. So Soros and Schumer are really like very similar to me. George Soros hates Jews. He went around with his uncle pointing them out to the Nazis in Budapest in 1944. So I can actually say I haven't seen both of them in the same room at the same time.
Well, maybe that's something to look into, because I feel like he's done enough fundraisers. We can probably find a photo of them both together.
Probably, but, you're right. You're probably.
But government shutdown not stopping the Democrats from planning retreat at luxury resort in California wine country. Because, of course, even though they're now going to cry to the cameras and pretend, Americans are going to be hardest hit by this, in reality, it's just their friends that work in government and sabotage the will of the people along the way. They're still planning all their luxury events as normal. They don't care. For them, this is a political issue. It's not about doing what's right for the country or getting our spending back on track, getting away from, we're in $37 trillion in debt right now. There's got to be cuts, and they're going to be across the board. And there's going to be some Republicans aren't happy about. But at the end of the day, we can't keep spending. We don't have the money. But again, that doesn't seem to affect Democrats. And again, once again, not a good look for them.
Not a good look. That looks like the dining room at Silverado in Napa, which is a very swish resort. And it reminds me, I lived up there at one point in my in the days when I must have been insane to live in Northern California. And it reminds me of those classic pictures of Governor Gruesome at the French Laundry, which was also up in the same area and is a 3-star Michelin restaurant. He's sitting there during the supposed COVID pandemic, drinking wine and not wearing a mask with all his friends. So it really shows, it just shows again, these people are greedy. They love the finer things in life, and they don't give a damn about any of us. So they've got to be stopped. They just continue to do the wrong thing. As President Trump was saying, I think yesterday, They never learn. They got their heads handed to them in the last election. All the polls are saying that they're not to be trusted, and they're a bunch of thieving, lying degenerates. And there's no coming back from that, incidentally. There's no rehabilitation. Once you're a thieving, lying degenerate, that's it. That's pretty much it. There's no, you can't be like, oh, well, no, they just did a number on me. It was untrue. No, there's none of that because nobody's buying it anymore. So they're constant looking for these luxurious surroundings is one evidence of the satanic obsession they have with money, luxury, and then that includes the homoerotic pedophilia that they're involved with, because they find that is very hedonistic, right? Like let's sacrifice children. Pizzagate is true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I think they, like you said, they've been exposed for who they really are. It's hard to claw back your reputation once the vast majority of the country sees beyond the mask. I think that unfortunately Charlie Kirk's assassination was kind of what led to this breakthrough of people finally ignoring what the left says and is now looking at their actions, looking at what they've done to our country, that their hearts are filled with hate, and people want nothing to do with it anymore. And they're seeing through the other lies now too, whether that's putting illegal aliens above American citizens or just this lavish spending they have on themselves while the rest of the country suffers. So people are tired of it. They're exposed. That isn't going to change anytime soon. But I do want to jump to this next story because, again, it illustrates just how insane they've become. So this happened yesterday. Bomb threat at Utah State University prompts evacuation ahead of TPUSA event. So this appears to have been called in by a student. It was a fake bomb. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and play this video for you guys real quick of the fake bomb disposal. But, it's crystallized now. They're losing on these college campuses too, because they can't compete with those that are willing to come on and debate all their little mind-numb robot sponges they're trying to create by controlling the college professors through DEI, CRT, and this just utter indoctrination that's gone on at our schools. But once you get people chipping away at that, chipping away at the lies, it's hard to win back your key constituency there. Like we said over and over again, Charlie Kirk was going into enemy territory and winning them over, and they can't have that. So if they've already killed Charlie Kirk, that's brought back TPUSA, and they're supercharged now. They're going to be in every campus in Utah now, every campus, and I think it was Oklahoma, in every college campus. And I'm sorry, Bill, was it North Carolina or South Carolina? I keep getting this mixed up.
I think it was in University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. They had some activity where the leftists were storming some events that were Charlie related. They weren't TPUSA.
Well, no, this is one of those two states, or these are all states now that are going to have TPUSA chapters in every campus, and actually Oklahoma is putting them in all their high schools. So
right,
again, these are
we're gonna have to
huge
double check
victors.
on that. I know you asked me last time I was on. I was uncertain as the resident North Carolina expert, but in my mind, I think it's probably South Carolina because it's redder than North Carolina. It's absolutely it's the place where Microsoft employees and their families move for refuge and to stop the insanity from Seattle. They go to South Carolina, and it's a wonderful place for them to live with their families, as opposed to the psychotic violence of the Pacific Northwest. So I think it's South Carolina. We'll have to nail that down after the show.
Okay, we'll do. I'm going to play this video real quick of the bomb disposal robot getting rid of the fake bomb. So yeah, again, this is what the left does when they're cornered. So this is a package that was so they actually put it in front of the wrong building. So the event was able to go on as normal since the police responded. And I was trying to find this a second ago, but I'm not seeing whether this was campus police, locals, or whoever. But basically, they were able to find the fake bomb, dispose of it, and then proceed as normal. So thank God, they didn't shut the event down. But I think this is going to be the new tactic we see from them. We talked about the other day that they're trying to push them off campuses in Cincinnati and a few other places. They're doing the same with other conservative groups now, using the assassination as an excuse that, we're going to get more violence from the left, so we can't possibly have them speak on campus, because that would, that they can't be responsible for their own actions. They can't be. We just couldn't possibly require them to act with civility. So instead, we're just going to throw off you guys so it doesn't infuriate these little Antifa radicals.
You would think they'd take some deep breaths after seeing the results of killing Charlie Kirk. And clearly, they killed Charlie Kirk. I mean, let's not make minced words anymore or say there's an investigation going on. They killed Charlie Kirk just like they tried to kill President Trump twice, and actually more times that we don't even know about. I don't know why they're not releasing all the times that they tried to assassinate President Trump. It's probably to benefit the left, who's trying to kill all our leaders. But it's just, now they're setting off a bomb, and I have absolutely no confidence in the FBI. Zero, none. Like, let's disband it. Let's take it apart, and we'll create some special force of special operators, people who've taken an oath to this country that they uphold, like in the U.S. military. But the FBI oath is, although it's the same oath, nobody really seems to take it seriously when they sign on to the FBI. I want that bomb maker. I want them marched out. They should have been marched out within 5 minutes in handcuffs. They're not going to do that. We'll probably never know who put that bomb together. They'll probably never catch them. And if they do catch them, they'll keep it a secret from us about who they are. So, TPUSA, in spite of this small, well, it's frightening and terrifying, but this small bomb disposal unit action, they had a huge event. 6,000 kids on fire with Charlie Kirk and the Lord and President Trump wearing 47 hats. They are sunk. Who would have thought 5 years ago or 2 years ago, even, as much belief as we had in President Trump and that he could really, truly make America great again? Who would have thought we would have had all the college kids coming on board and joining us, locking arms with us, surrounding the enemy, and having a nice circular firing squad that didn't hit anybody in the circle? I mean, so these people are really. I'm just so excited about the way people are coming on board. A lot of those kids in the video I saw were standing on line like at a Trump rally with the metal barricades, and they were carrying their Bibles. I mean, How great is this? Who could have possibly anticipated this? It's even better than we dreamed and prayed for. So, those are just a mishmash of my thoughts on this whole thing, on this story.
And we're not going to get to this today. I think I actually might have pulled it off because it was from Monday. But they've been monitoring how many people are going into churches across the country, and they've seen an on average increase of 15% attendance. And the new people that are showing up are primarily saying that they are there because they were either inspired by Charlie Kirk or by the outpouring of support afterwards. Sorry about that. But they're basically giving that as the reason that this is turning into a real American revival. And others are getting the message too. Even the ADL, anti-Christian neo-Marxist ADL retires glossary of extremism following TPUSA backlash. So this was actually started by Elon Musk retweeted somebody that was pointing out that the ADL until yesterday still had a TPUSA listed as a terrorist organization in this book that they use. This again, just basically a tool for the leftist media to pretend all this terrorism comes from the right, and everybody knows it's a joke. But yeah, Elon Musk retweeted this. This rapidly gained traction. It started to become a big story. So they came out and said, "Oh, we're retiring the glossary of extremism. We're not going to use it anymore. It's no longer accurate. We need to rethink how we're doing this." But again. This is one of those organizations that is an anti-Christian hate group. Their actions betray them for this all the time, from their support of BLM, all the anti-white rhetoric, anti-Christian rhetoric. I mean, they want Santa Claus banned from the public square. And you guys don't believe me, you can check it out. I'm sure people have it archived from their website. But they want Santa Claus banned from the public square because it's a symbol of Christian oppression.
Well, like the ACLU, the ADL originally, like the whole idea of unions back at the Industrial Revolution at the turn of the 20th century, 19th century, it started out as a good idea. It would protect people, and it did start out that way. But all of a sudden, it was corrupted. Wait a second. Let me finish making my point. So the ACLU and them were both kind of like, okay, let's protect everybody's rights. You'll recall that the ACLU supported the Nazis in Skokie, Illinois, and their right to parade, and that was a free speech thing. But they've been corrupted somewhere along the way, and they both turned into the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is a hate group. And so what they do is they infiltrate organizations that are theoretically against them, and then they turn them to their own evil uses, which is what they did with unions. Unions were originally to protect kids from child labor, protect workers from, working in horrible environments that were killing them, like mines, and helping trying to protect their health. And it turned into just a huge political money laundering machine for the left. So I think that the ACLU and the ADL are both corrupt organizations that have outlived their usefulness.
Well, the ADL, unfortunately, did not start off like that. Right from the inception, they were there to foment lies. Are you not familiar with their way they were founded and started?
I am not familiar with the way they were founded and started, but I do remember that they were centrist when they started. Now they're completely on the left.
No, even from the very beginning. So they were all started with Leo Frank down in outside of Georgia. He owned a pencil factory. He was a Jewish man, and he raped and murdered a girl that worked for him. That's who founded the organization. So when they were founded, he tried to pawn it off on a black man that lived in the area that had done like odd jobs for different people. He ends up getting lynched for it. He had nothing to do with the crime. And this was essentially because of the ADL going out and putting out this propaganda that Leo Frank was innocent, that the crime was perpetrated by this black man that lived in the area. He gets hung and lynched. Leo Frank gets convicted because they have all sorts of evidence to back up that he lured this woman that worked for him, I think she was 14 years old, back into the pencil factory, raped her, murdered her. He ends up getting, I think, executed for it. But they've taken up cases like this for decades. They also funded fake Klan rallies throughout the 90s and eventually got caught, that they would funnel money into another Jewish organization. This guy would go in, get the permits for the Klan rallies. They would have their fake Klan rallies, no actual Klan members. It was ADL and other people putting on the costumes and parading through the streets in New Jersey and New York. And then they would go back and use that to fundraise. Like, the ADL has been disgusting since the day it was founded. And because they, again, support the left, support leftist ideology, they're held up and given a pedestal when how they've operated, from the very beginning has always been this way. Deception, deceiving the public, to try to put forward a political message and protect the corrupt. So yeah, they've been a problem since the very beginning, and should be stripped of their protect their tax exempt status and everything else they have. But now they're writing manuals for the FBI on hate groups. So somebody needs to figure out how exactly that happened.
Well, I'm not really familiar with all the stories of rapes of children. I don't know why that didn't come out 50 years ago or 40 years ago. They've been around a long time. My main point here is that my understanding of what the ADL was originally, the mission behind it, was to stop anti-Semitism and to stop angry, hateful talk that would lead to the killing and the denigration of Jews. And I think that it's a very short step from going after the ADL and calling, it's a very short step from the hatred of the ADL to Benjamin Netanyahu as a Satanist or the Antichrist. So I think we need to be very careful in this day and age of Jew hatred rampantly cruising around the world in our country. They continue to peddle this thing about, when I say they, I'm talking about unhinged conservative voices. They continue to peddle this stuff that Charlie Kirk was killed by Israel. And it's nonsense. I mean, it's so untrue. It's ridiculous. And, I think that when they try to point the finger at Jews for everything that happens, they're caught in the uncomfortable position of saying, oh, I don't hate Jews or anything, but they killed Charlie Kirk. I mean, it's like nonsense. So we really have to be very careful about this. It's like support of Israel is a main box to check on being a conservative. Once you get rid of that, then it's very easy to be drawn into, abortion's okay if you use the pill and it's sent to you by mail. All of a sudden, we're sacrificing our basic principles as Christian conservatives. So, I'm not as hateful towards the ADL as some people are, but clearly they are. And I got to say, the articles that are coming out against the ADL so strongly now and against Jews in general are coming from NPR, the Daily Beast, Politico. You don't see them in the New York Times.
Well, the ADL has always been this way. I mean, again, it's a clever name. They try to hide behind the mask of Judaism to try to defend criminals, monsters. And this has been their pattern. Now, it's not to say that maybe at some point you can find somebody legitimate that they defended, but more often than not, this is always what they've been. They've been a political tool to try to hide monsters' crimes under the guise of being the Anti-Defamation League. But again, it doesn't reflect reality. Again, it's clever marketing, but it doesn't reflect what they are in reality. But we can jump on to this next story because this also gets into this. Co-founder of far-left Wikipedia shares webpage that ranks conservative news outlets as unreliable and greenlights the fake news far-left outlets. Blah, blah, blah. So this also has backfired. Something else, Elon Musk, coincidentally, will now be starting Grokpedia with, as you guys know, one of the co-founders of Wikipedia is not a wingnut. He just wants a way to document just the facts, real, useful and accurate encyclopedia entries online forever. So they are partnering and going to form Grokpedia, which is going to try to have just the facts, not this left-wing political bias on everything, create an honest encyclopedic source for people to use into the future.
Yeah, so Wikipedia is obviously a left-wing attempt to pervert the truth, and always has been, by a bunch of communists. I remember Jimmy Wales, I think, is the main founder, and is always the guy that when you click on a Wikipedia link, you get this long begging email from him begging for money.
Yes.
And that's because he, even the left doesn't believe in his mission anymore. I will, however, point out that as a journalist, you can sometimes use Wikipedia links about people like Corinne Jean-Pierre or about Karl Marx or about Barack Obama. You can occasionally find the gem in there of truth. And it's usually a bad gem of truth about whomever on the left they're covering. And then conversely, you can go through conservative heroes and like Ronald Reagan and find it's just filled with lies. So it's a good barometer to see what the media is trying to do to our how they're trying to manipulate and corrupt our minds. I was fascinated by the idea, I think you mentioned off air before we went on, about Elon Musk creating a parallel economy. That's what we have to do here. Every time we should be trained, and we should be reflexively. Every time we see something that's awful, that's stacked against us, like Wikipedia, like the media, like social media, we have to immediately think about setting up a parallel economy, like Mammoth Nation. Now, I don't know how well they're doing, but they're selling conservative Christian products that are made in the USA. And that's just the kind of thing we need to do. We need to have an alternative to Nike shoes. So we need Patriot shoes. Trump tried to do that, right? We need to just virtually every product, every service that they offer us that's corrupt and evil, we need to come up with a good Christian angle on that same product and create a parallel economy.
Yeah, agreed. Maybe we need to get Mike from Public Square on again, see if he can discuss that, where he was kind of trying to put that network on. We'd had him on here a couple of years ago originally, and I've stayed in touch with him off and on through various things. But yeah, you're right.
How are they doing? Mammoth Nation perhaps was not the better example. Probably Public Square was better. Do you know how they're doing financially or making sales, et cetera?
Not right at the moment, but yeah, to go back to Wikipedia, it is interesting too, because they've always kind of been known for, when it came to like big conservative figures putting up a bunch of nonsense. But you go back like, 10, 15 years, I don't remember them always being as biased, that this is something that really went into hyperdrive like everything else over the last 10 years. I think that's kind of why the one founder, left and broke away. he was willing to tolerate a certain amount of shenanigans from all these political hacks that were working for them, putting their pages together. But now it's just totally out of control, where they're even, like we talked about before, this Irina Zarutska article, they wanted to strip that, take that off Wikipedia, because again, it makes the left look bad. They're not there to be an honest news source. They're there to rewrite history in a way that's favorable to the left. And that's what's got to end. See, I think this Grokpedia, I hope they got a better name than that. But I think that's a brilliant idea, and the kind of thing that we do need is a source that doesn't necessarily have a right-wing bias. It just has to reflect reality, reflect the truth. In that way,
is that Grokpedia because of Barack Obama? Where's Barack?
Grokpedia, Grok.
Oh, Grokpedia. I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, no worries. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and take a break. Take our break here from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back with more.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Life can be pretty unpredictable, filled with good days and not so good days. And sometimes, the only difference between the two is your level of preparedness. The Jace case lets you be better prepared for whatever comes your way. It contains antibiotics and other prescription medications so that you aren't caught unprepared. With the Jace case, you are able to get your prescription medication before the unpredictable happens, allowing you to turn those not so good days into great ones. Go to jace.com now and get your own Jace case.
Thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the programs here on X America News is by supporting our sponsors. And I do want to encourage you guys to go to jace.com or jacemedical.com and use code insurrection. Pick up a Jace case for yourself and your family. Again, this isn't like a basic first aid kit. This is something that contains antibiotics, non-narcotic pain relievers, steroids, and other drugs, prescription drugs that could be necessary or even life-saving if help isn't on the way. It's one of those things, better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. They have a variety of other kits available, from blowout kits in case you do have somebody with a major injury, and kits for UTI, parasite cleanses, other things if you have a specific condition to treat. They can also swap out the drugs in these kits for alternatives if you have a family member that's allergic to one of them or non-responsive to something. They also offer drug supplies for things like blood thinners, diabetes medication, other things that might be necessary that you take every day. So again, go to jace.com or jacemedical.com, use code insurrection. It's a great way to support our program and help us to keep bringing you the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. Like this next story. Well, Charlie Kirk has inspired Stephen Crowder to get back out there. Crowder relaunches Change My Mind at Southern Methodist University. And I think this is the perfect topic. The left is violent, change my mind. And Kirk's not the only one. There's a couple other smaller conservative organizations that are now doing the same thing, emulating Charlie Kirk, going out on their campus, a lot of times their local campus, and just setting up somewhere in the public square and debating these radicals. I think this really is going to inspire a movement far beyond just TPUSA. We're sick and tired of this, and we know that these universities are just indoctrination centers now. So we've got to do something to break that programming, get these people back to reality if we ever want to change and save this country, especially with the level of violence and calls for more violence that we've seen from the left. It's time to start de-radicalizing these people.
Yeah, I really like Stephen Crowder. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. I think some conservative people went after him and have been going after him over the years. I think it's totally unjustified, but maybe, I don't know, maybe he deserves criticism sometimes. I like this a lot. I like the idea of, the left is violent. That's clear. And really, if you find yourself on that side of the debate trying to support that they're not violent, you're gonna go down in flames. So I really
Pretty
like that a
much.
lot. I think it's a good and we got to keep the spirit and the communications channel that Charlie Kirk created open and running. My worst fear is that somehow Charlie and what he did will sink into the background and just become part of the miasma of history. We can't allow that to happen. We've got to, even to a certain extent, Martin Luther King dropped into history and it was only evoked once in a while. So, and Abe Lincoln. All of these heroes to different people, different parts of the political spectrum, they somehow start out really strong and then manage to just kind of slip away. We can't let Charlie Kirk slip away. We need to keep evoking his name. We need to keep TPUSA out there and growing. And I was speaking to a TPS USA person the other day at a Christian conference, and I was saying, it's fantastic that they're getting, 800,000 chapter requests, whatever it is now. That's fantastic. But I asked him, how the heck are you going to respond to all those requests? That's going to take a lot of money. Clearly, they've got some money now, but that's going to take a big staff, a lot of resources. And the worst thing would be if 800,000 people are making chapter requests and, only 50,000 of them get responses. So we got to keep this thing going. And Crowder is doing that here.
Yeah. Well, and one thing with the chapter requests is they're also going through these because some of them are duplicates on campus. You have this friend group of 5 people. They send in a request unknowingly. There's this other friend group on the other side of campus that wants to get involved, and they send in a request. Because, the number I've heard is they've got about 122,000 requests total. But we also have, like we said earlier, a few states that the state themselves are now saying, hey, this is a good idea. We should have this on every college campus, or in, I think it's Oklahoma's case, they want to bring them in every high school. But yeah, heroes always fade over time, but it's, it's how they're really remembered. But yeah, right now, while the iron's hot, this should be on everybody's lips. And then to address Crowder. Yeah, I think some of the criticism he's got in the past, especially over leaving the Blaze and that whole thing, or releasing this letter from a Daily Wire when he wanted to link up with them. Some of it is kind of underhanded. There's definitely reasons to talk about, or the stuff with his divorce. Some of that was really, but I'm sure, again, him and the ex-wife now were emotional. But yeah, I think by and large, Crowder's always done a good job. He's been consistent. He's always been a strong fighter. And, taking this fight on campus like he did, Charlie Kirk was the nice guy. Charlie Kirk would, if they were standing there reading off the paper, getting flustered, he'd tell them, take your time. It's okay. Calm down. Whereas Crowder was more the in-your-face, I'm there to just verbally beat you down. And that's why I always liked Crowder. Because to be honest, I always watched Crowder more than I did Kirk. Just because I like watching the left get totally demoralized and verbally beat down in these arguments. Making an example out of them. To show that their ideas are nonsensical. They don't or evil. But there's definitely there's probably a greater place for Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's strength was outreach. He was never mean or cruel to them or anything else. He let them speak. He didn't cut them off. He let them make their point, and then he used facts, logic, to dismantle their argument. And again, I think that's why he was such a powerful tool. Was when half the audience will say or more are people that are lined up against him. You're going to get through to at least some of them. Excuse me, if you take that approach.
Bless you.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. So Crowder, just to finish off on Crowder, it seemed to me that he was an example of either jealousy or something. They wanted to go after him because he was rising. We're seeing the same thing in the GOP and the Republican Party right now. I think now's not the time to be going after each other. Candace Owens was a heroine for a long time, and then all of a sudden she's on the outs and a despicable person. I don't know what's going on within the conservative movement, but we've got to stop attacking each other because we have one central enemy. It's clear. We know who the enemy is. And to the extent that we're going to continue this infighting, I just think it's a big mistake. So going after Crowder was one of those instances where I thought, and then the thing with the wife, that's clearly, That's like the president's family. You lay off that. You lay off the president's family. You don't really, not that he's the president, but.
Well, like that's the one where I think some of the people talking about Crowder had a point, because he was putting out his wife's dirty laundry publicly while they were going through the divorce. And, that's not good either. But, again, like you said, now is the time to unify. But yeah, the other thing I always liked about Crowder was he wasn't just going on college campuses. A lot of times he was going to regular public spaces, just talking to people that were walking down the street. And that was part of what made him so effective. And, again, the same thing, he was assaulted several times by violent leftists. A lot of times police refused to do anything about it. And that was kind of why he stopped doing this, was he got to the point where if the police aren't going to charge people that are attacking you when you've got it on video, then what are you supposed to do? We're going to get to another example of that here in a few minutes if we have time. But we just had this.
Kind of like Gavin McInnes.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, we have this from yesterday, and actually I'm going to pull two headlines right here. Breaking: post-millennial reporter Katie Davenport assaulted by Antifa militant in Portland amid ICE riot. And then we also had this. Antifa terrorist threatens to effing smoke journalist Nick Shirley at Portland protests. We really need to see these people making more arrests, our ICE operatives and DHS officials and other people who are on the ground there. Because I understand the directive right now is for them to protect themselves and arrest anybody that's assaulting ICE agents, but they're not even doing that. They're still cutting these people breaks. I know that you've seen some arrests. There were a few again last night in Portland, I believe. There were a series of arrests in Chicago yesterday of these violent activists. But they've got to be doing more, especially, again, when they're attacking counter-protesters or other people on the street that are just walking by. At the end of the day, they're there to protect the American people, or they should be there to protect the American people. And if journalists are getting assaulted, especially continuously like this, something's got to be done. Now, I understand, this may fall on the Portland police in this area, and obviously they're not going to do anything. The mayor's tying their hands. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the department that would like to. But something's got to be done. The violence from the left is just totally out of control. Until we send a message that it's not going to be tolerated anymore, we're going to continue to see more of this.
You got to like this kid, Nick Shirley, out there kind of as one man against many. He's the man in the arena, or the boy wonder in the arena. But he's either the most brave or the stupidest person I've ever seen. My expectation really at this point, I think after being offered to, after being suggested that he'd be effing smoked, he should probably have a large special forces operator next to him. That way this wouldn't happen. But I agree with you, in the long run, we need to start arresting more Antifa. And in cases like this, where they have a lot of these guys going around threatening journalists, I think there should be a special team, maybe 2 or 3 special forces guys, or a National Guard protecting the press, because they go after the press because they know that they're unarmed, or they think they're pretty sure they're unarmed, and they think they can do anything they want. I'd also like to see a more organized effort. For instance, when you have 50 Antifa people, surround them by 30 federal officers in riot gear. Just put them in a circle, and then start zip tying them, get them down on their knees, zip tie them, stand them up, take off their masks and their black hoodies, and line them up for a public demonstration of who they are. So we can get their facial recognition going, get their background and all their details. And in that way, we can continue the good work started by Laura Loomer and Enrique Tarrios and the gal from Libs of TikTok, where we can just start destroying their lives systematically. Because that's what they're doing to us. They've been systematically destroying our lives for years now. So they need to be systematically destroyed, not just dragged off and hogtied, because then we don't get to see their faces. We need to start building a database with their faces. And by extension, if we get one face or facial recognition, we're going to find a whole bunch of people in their network that are Antifa as well. So this is a very important investigation, I would call it, but not an investigation in the sense of going before Congress or an investigator general, an independent counsel or something. No, those kinds of investigations have to be canned, and we need to get rid of those. We need to really start going after these people and unmasking them. That's it. Unmask them.
Yeah, literally and figuratively. Maybe that's something else we should do. I remember, this was a while back now, well over a year ago, What was Patriot Front? You remember they showed up at some event. I think this was in Oregon, and that was a conservative event. So they show up with their flags and the usual, the feds, and a bunch of the people went up and ripped their masks off and took their pictures. And we were able to figure out within a few days that 3 of the people whose masks were ripped off were either FBI, or I don't know if there's FBI or CIA employees. A few of them were federal contractors. So, I mean, that, at least to me, finally proved Patriot Front was a Fed unit out there to disrupt and create this image for the media to go after. So, maybe that's the approach. If they put hands on you, you rip their mask off, get their face out there, then we can figure out who they really are. Again, like I've said before, we've got to start protecting ourselves. And I get in some of these blue cities, blue states, it's going to be borderline impossible. But, Katie Davis, of course, was clearly insulted. I was going to play the video, but you can't really tell much of what's going on. It just looks like hectic nonsense. But I did catch this in it. The lady that hit her with the flagpole and some of the others had Antifa flags on. So if they're now declared a terrorist organization and wearing their symbolism links you to them, and then you can be arrested for that. Why aren't we making those arrests? We need to get out there and actually do this, enforce the law. I pulled the slide up for a second of Pam Bondi. She's, made all these harsh statements, but we're still not seeing action on the ground. Why is that? I mean, I have trouble believing it's because ICE or DHS doesn't want to make these arrests. You would think after over 100 days of being assaulted, they'd be ready to go arrest people, not backing down from it. And I get, the ones that are just standing on this corner with their signs, they're going to probably be out there. But the ones that are getting in the way of vehicles, blocking ICE agents, physically assaulting people, those are the ones that need to be drug away with handcuffs. And then even if the only thing you can get them on is providing material support to a terrorist organization, that's still 10 years in jail. So come on, guys, get your act together. Start arresting these people, or you're just going to continue to get assaulted. This is going to continue to amp up, and it won't be too much longer before we see another violent assault with firearms on an ICE facility from one of these deranged lunatic leftists. So again, we've got to start.
You mentioned the alleged woman with the Antifa flag. So that's easy pickings, right? That's low hanging fruit. That's a foot long putt. She should be scooped up as she's preparing to enter the rally, not in full. Like, we need to do some more preliminary work on these people. We need to find out where they're getting dressed, where they're getting ready, how they're in shuttles that are provided by Soros. So we need to meet them there when they're strapping on their Doc Martens and their black mom jeans and getting their umbrellas out and all that kind of stuff. Scoop them up right there. You're under arrest. You're showing up. You're part of Antifa. Sorry. And I'd also like to see, I've been thinking about this and praying a lot. I'd really like to see, because of the fear that they instill in the left, I'd like to see the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers come back. They would be a great kind of additional assist to ICE, to local police, to the FBI, and to the National Guard. Having those guys around, they'd be able to get to and prevent this post-millennial reporter from getting hurt. They'd be able to prevent the constant battering of Andy Ngo, whom we can't respect enough, and we can't, feel bad enough about how he's been treated, yet he keeps going back in there. So there's an example of bravery. But I've got to say that I'd love to see those guys come back, and I'll pray for that. The Oath Keepers and it terrifies the left. You hear them talking about them all the time. So let's bring them back and get them involved and deputize them.
Yeah, that's another thing. The other thought I had, and then we'll jump onto this other story here, is, and it may work different in different states, but in Florida, you had a side business with an ex-girlfriend, and a few times we did have to hire security, but what we would always do is hire local police for off-duty hours. So you basically had to pay their full wage plus a fee. You could bring them in for 4 hours or whatever. Maybe we need to do that, because then they're still legally law enforcement in that area, and if somebody does assault you or otherwise violate the law, they can still make an arrest. So maybe that's the route to go. Find out if there's a way to do that, or if that's legal in Chicago, Portland, Eugene, and these other cities. I imagine it's probably you're able to do that in Texas. Because then, you don't just have a security team that can stop somebody from assaulting you. You've got somebody that can actually make an arrest and throw them in jail when they do these kind of things and clearly violate the law and smack people with flagpoles or run him off the way this guy did, making death threats the whole way to Nick Shirley. But we also have this, and this, sorry guys, this is a couple days old. We've been busy, so we're just now getting to it. But Alvin Bragg's office drops case against woman who assaulted pro-life activists during interview. So Bragg's excuse is just, oops, I forgot to file the paperwork, basically. But again, we all know this is intentional. This was an obvious assault caught on tape. She basically cold-cocked this lady right in the face, punched her, and now she's not going to suffer the consequences. Now, luckily, the activist, and sorry, I forgot to get her name written down here. Apologize. But
her first name's Savannah.
Savannah. Okay, well, see, she is going to now, and she does have some legal help. A few companies have jumped up, and she is suing the Southern District of New York, Alvin Bragg, the woman who assaulted her. But now she can only go after her in civil court instead of this woman suffering the what she should for physical assault in the street in broad daylight. I mean, this lady should be doing jail time.
Yeah, and it's also a civil rights violation of hers that every American by the Constitution is allowed their day in court as a victim. And this is just another case of stacking the deck against conservative, pro-life, Trump-supporting citizens, tax-paying, employed citizens.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing was a setup because I saw she talked about this. She was on with Sarah Gonzalez yesterday and then another Blaze show yesterday. And so I got to learn a little bit more about her. The reason I don't know her last name is because it's a very difficult last name, and I'm bad with names anyway, but I did remember her name is Savannah. I would look for her to turn up on some bigger network soon. She is very, very personable and very well-spoken. She talked about it. And what this lady did was this big tank of a woman, this angry, overweight, lesbian DEI lover. What she did was she stood around and listened to Savannah interview people and then decided that she needed to get in there by being initially reasonable and acting as if she was a real human being and not a troglodyte. And so she got in there and was initially very cooperative. Savannah was talking to her for like 15 or 20 minutes. And then finally, she came out with the real purpose for being up there. And it was that we should kill foster children because if they aren't aborted, we should just kill them because the taxpayer shouldn't support them. And it was like the most insane thing. And Savannah immediately reacted. And then the woman immediately changed the subject. And then Savannah brought it up at the end as she was closing out the interview. And that's when the woman started swinging. And so, obviously this was a clear assault and battery. And Alvin Bragg rigged the system. Every time I look at that guy's face, I'm just like, look at this big bloviating sack of fecal matter. He's just like, when are we got to indict him and Tish, to Big Tish? That's got to happen soon. They should be next after Christopher Wray. I know that they've got their hands full over at DOJ, but let's put some other lower priority things down and start the indictment conveyor belt. This lady, so now she's got the civil suit. This is not going to go away anytime soon. I have a feeling. I think this story is going to have legs.
Yeah, hopefully so. Because I remember covering this when it happened, and it is blatant assault, and nothing's being done. Yeah, and to your point, maybe once they indict Tish James, then maybe they should start looking into Alvin Bragg's real estate transactions, since that seems to be the other crime leftists just can't help but commit themselves. All right, I got one last story I want to get into here, because this is heartbreaking. I'm sure you guys have probably heard about this or seen the video now, but it's yet another example of how these failed leftist soft on crime policies are just destroying our country and destroying these cities and costing innocent lives. So you pissed off the wrong daddy. Father of college co-ed Logan Federico, who was executed by career criminal, goes off on Democrats. And let me run this video for you, Bill, and then let's get your response.
First, I want to make sure you all knew my daughter. My daughter was Logan Federico. Okay? Yes. Logan Federico. She was 22, visiting friends at the University of South Carolina. How many of y'all have kids? I'm just curious. Here's what I need you to do. When I tell you this story, think about your kids. Think about your child coming home from a night out with their friends, laying down, going to sleep, feeling somebody come in the room and wake them, and drag her out of bed,
naked, forced on her knees, with her hands over her head, begging for her life, begging for her hero, her father, me, that couldn't be there. She was 5'3". She weighed 115 pounds. Bang! Dead. Gone. Why? Because Alexander Devontae Dickey, who was arrested 39 goddamn times, 25 felonies, was on the street. How about that? How good are we doing for our family? How good are you doing for your kids? He should have been in jail for over 140 years for all the crimes he committed. You know how much time he spent in prison? A little over 600 days in 10 years. He's only 30 years old. He was committing 2.65 crimes a year since he was 15 years old, but nobody could figure out that he couldn't be rehabilitated. Well, you'd have to put him in prison to see if he could be rehabilitated. Isn't that the idea of prison? But no, my daughter wanted to be a teacher. She finally figured it out 2 weeks before she was executed. And I haven't heard a damn word from Byron Gibson in South Carolina. Not one word.
And yet another tragedy like this that, again, should have been preventable. You know, the fact that this guy had been arrested 39 times. Are you frozen there, Bill? Oh, sorry. I thought you were frozen for a second.
No,
the fact that this guy had been arrested 39 times, should have been in jail for the next 140 years. But this soft on crime policy, the idea that, you know, you've got to protect and coddle the criminal, that's what leads to this. And hopefully America's finally waking up to this fact. You know, it's one thing to offer some mercy in certain cases, especially if there's not a direct victim in the crime, but especially when it comes to like violent crime like this is what you're asking for when you do that.
It's no wonder that you thought I was frozen. I was paralyzed with sorrow and anger. And it used to be the sorrow was a bigger portion of my paralysis or what was devastating my heart than the anger. That's ended. So there's an initial kind of response of sorrow, but then we go right into anger. And that was devastating to the heart of any human being with a functioning conscience. But especially for someone like me who's a father and a grandfather and has two daughters and two grandchildren. It's, you know, if you're the father of a girl, there's a special emphasis on protecting that girl. And you can see that in that father. This was reality. This was cold, hard-bitten reality in the harsh light of day. This was a moment of truth coming from that man. This was like Erica Kirk at the memorial. This was one of those moments that should go down in infamy, because this is the Democrat Party. This is who they are. They've brought us this crime wave. They've always been soft on crime. It's gone way past soft on crime. They love criminals. They fornicate with criminals. They're just constantly following the criminal path. That's what they love. And then it goes into illegal immigrant crime, and then it goes into immigration. So you can see they're all related and tied in. This father did absolutely the right thing, and I'm glad he's coming out so strongly. I think in cases like this, by the way, and all the angel parents who lost children, mostly daughters, to illegal immigration, I think they should be permitted to pull the switch on an electrocute or be in the firing squad, because there needs to be really some payback for these people who've been through so much. And if they want to participate in the execution, they should. Most of them want to go to the executions, but it's just a devastating example of what's going on in our world today, and it's got to be stopped. And Trump is doing that. So that's one way to end that particularly heartbreaking story on a positive note. Trump is a father and a grandfather too, and he's going after these people voraciously.
Yeah. Now I saw it. I wish I could remember who this was that was also responding to this story yesterday or the day before, and I thought they made a really interesting point with it. You know, they were trying to connect the soft on crime policies to all the death, destruction, and devastation it causes, and that it primarily harms the people the Democrats are pretending to want to help, the minority community. So they were talking about in D.C. How over the last 2 years, or it was a 2-year period, it might have been 2023 and 2024, I can't quite remember what they used, but that basically that there had been nearly 1,200 homicides in Washington, D.C. during that time. And do you know what percentage of them were white victims? Give me your best guess.
7%.
You're actually low, but not by much. It was around 11%. So, you know, a very small number in the overall homicides. Almost all of them were black on black crime, and it was typically by career criminals, people that they were catching and releasing, even in a lot of cases, even for violent crime, or this other scandal they're looking into right now with the DC police, where they were downgrading assaults and other things to thefts or medical incidents and things like that, covering for these people to keep them out of jail. But yeah, basically, that their policy, not only does it not work, which we all know, and leads to more victims, but it also harms the people the most who they are pretending to want to help with this. Like you said, Bill, in reality, they just want to prop up criminals. It's not about justice, not about anything else. It's a marketing campaign to try to pretend, you're the one there standing in the way of the evil white police officer that's there to murder black people. In reality, nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah, we have to. So at this time of a modern day holy war, we have to be very careful the words we use. And soft on crime is outdated. The Democrats were soft on crime in the 1950s and 1960s before we were
they're
born.
pro-crime now.
Yeah, they're actually involved in the transactions and supporting the people who are doing this. So that goes too far. And I just think we have to really just be careful not to underestimate what they're doing, and to always be penalizing them. We have to penalize them more than most people are even thinking, because this is just what they're doing is they're trying to destroy our country and they're trying to kill our people, and it's got to stop. So.
Yeah, maybe it's time to look to Japan and other countries that don't have these kind of problems, that, when somebody's a drug dealer, not necessarily a first-time drug offender using, that they lock them up for 10 years right off the bat. They make the punishment extremely harsh. And then again, we've got to start coddling prisoners too. But anyway, that's a whole story for another time. But Bill, thank you for joining again today. To our audience, thank you for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. We'll be back tomorrow with even more. Thanks again.